Ladies and gentlemen, let me hit you with something real right out of the gate. You're wasting too much damn time. Time scrolling, time comparing, time waiting for someone else to validate your existence. And while you're out here chasing noise, you're losing the one thing you can't get back. See, nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's handing you discipline or self-respect or results. You've got to earn that. And it starts with focusonyourself. You've got goals, you've got dreams. But if your energy is leaking out to distractions, drama, and dumb shat that doesn't serve you, how the hell are you supposed to get anywhere? So today, right now, we're cutting the crap. We're dialing in. Because the truth is, the world doesn't need a watered-down version of you. It needs the version that's locked in, disciplined, and not afraid to do the hard work in silence while everyone else is busy performing. Let's get into it. Protecting your energy like it's gold isn't just a motivational cliche. It's a survival tactic in a world built to drain you. Every single day you're hit with a flood of information, distractions, demands, and emotional static from people who don't even have their own lives together. If you're not conscious of where your focus is going, you'll find yourself depleted, bitter, and stuck in the same place year after year. Energy isn't infinite. It's a resource just like time, and if you don't protect it, someone else will gladly waste it for you. Think about how much of your energy is spent reacting to things that have nothing to do with your goals. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and suddenly you're angry for the next hour. You get a passive-aggressive text, and now your day is hijacked by overthinking. You scroll for 5 minutes and realize you just lost an hour to other people's curated highlight reels. These aren't just minor annoyances, these are energy leaks. And when you let enough leaks pile up, your drive suffers, your confidence shrinks, and your progress stalls. People talk about time management like it's the ultimate productivity hack, but managing your energy is what really separates those who move forward from those who stay stuck. Because time without energy is useless. You can have all the hours in the day, but if your energy is scattered, anxious, or burned out, you're not building anything meaningful. You're just surviving. You're on autopilot. And autopilot doesn't lead to greatness. You have to start asking yourself a brutal question every day: is this worth my energy? That argument, that pointless conversation, that toxic friendship, that empty small talk that eats up your mornings. Because the truth is, the more you say yes to things that don't matter, the more you're saying no to what does. And that trade-off compounds fast. Say yes to too many energy-draining choices, and you'll look back in 6 months wondering why nothing's changed. Most people don't even realize how much of their mental bandwidth is being hijacked. We've normalized stress. We've normalized overstimulation. We think it's normal to be constantly anxious, to constantly feel behind, to always need a break, even though we haven't accomplished anything worth recovering from. That's not normal. That's just poor energy management disguised as a busy life. Protecting your energy means setting boundaries that actually hold. It means saying no without guilt, not because you're rude, but because you have a bigger mission. It means spending more time alone, getting comfortable in silence, and getting brutally honest about what actually fuels you and what just feeds your ego or insecurities. It also means filtering your environment like your life depends on it, because it does. The people around you, the content you consume, the conversations you entertain, they all affect your state. If you're constantly around negativity, chaos, gossip, or passive aggression, don't expect to stay calm and focused. You're not immune. You're human. And what surrounds you seeps into you, whether you notice it or not. When you start taking this seriously, everything changes. You stop chasing validation and start choosing peace. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop pleasing and start prioritizing. That's not selfish. That's self-preservation. People who protect their energy know what they want. They're not bouncing from distraction to distraction, hoping something outside of them will fix what's broken inside. They know that the most powerful thing they can control isn't the world, it's their internal state, and protecting that becomes the ultimate advantage. Discipline is what carries you when motivation disappears. People talk about motivation like it's some magical force that shows up every morning to drag them out of bed and make them productive. But the truth is, motivation is unreliable. It's inconsistent. It's a feeling, and feelings are fleeting. One day you're inspired, the next day you're tired, distracted, or just not in the mood. If your actions depend on your mood, your progress will be random at best. That's why discipline is the real foundation. It's what separates the people who get things done from the people who just talk about getting things done. Discipline means showing up even when you don't feel like it. It's getting up early when every cell in your body wants to sleep in. It's putting in the work when no one's watching, when there's no applause, no audience, and no immediate payoff. It's doing the boring, unsexy things that compound into results. People want the rewards without the repetition. They want the physique without the training, the business without the grind, the mindset without the mental reps. But you don't rise to the level of your dreams. You fall to the level of your discipline. Motivation might spark action, but discipline builds momentum. It's a muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it gets. And like any muscle, it grows through resistance. That resistance is your friend. It's the part of you that wants to quit, that wants to scroll instead of focus, that wants to skip the gym, delay the project, or rationalize your way out of progress. Discipline is the voice that says, do it anyway. Not because it's fun, not because you feel like it, but because you said you would. Consistency is born from discipline, not hype. Everyone's excited on day 1. That's easy. But day 10, day 50, day 200, when no one cares anymore and it's just Youvz the mirror, that's where it counts. That's where most people fade. And that's where the winners separate themselves. It's not about being perfect. It's about being consistent enough to push through your excuses. You don't need a perfect routine, a perfect plan, or perfect conditions. You need to be the kind of person who does what needs to be done regardless of the circumstances. When discipline becomes your default, you stop negotiating with yourself. You stop looking for shortcuts. You stop needing permission. There's a calmness that comes with being disciplined because you know you're in control. You don't fear setbacks because you trust your ability to bounce back. You don't get intimidated by hard things because you've trained your mind to handle discomfort. You become reliable, not just to others, but to yourself. And that internal trust is everything. When you say, I'm going to do this, and then actually do it, you build self-respect. You build confidence. You start stacking wins, even if they're small. And over time, those wins build momentum that can't be faked. There's also freedom in discipline. It might sound like a contradiction, but it's not. When you live without discipline, you're actually a slave to your impulses. You're reactive, distracted, inconsistent, always pulled in 10 directions by whatever feels good in the moment. But when you have discipline, you create structure, and structure creates space. You're not wasting mental energy deciding whether or not to show up. You just do it. You're not battling yourself every day. You've already made the decision in advance. That clarity gives you power. It gives you time. It gives you peace. Everyone wants results, but very few are willing to commit when it gets hard, when it gets boring, when no one is clapping. That's where discipline shows up. Not in the moments when everything is going right, but in the moments when nothing is. When you can master yourself in those times, there's very little the world can throw at you that you won't be ready for. Cutting the noise and killing the distractions is not just a productivity tactic. It's a mindset shift. In a world that profits off your attention, your ability to focus is your greatest currency. Every day, you're bombarded with pings, alerts, headlines, trends, and content designed to hijack your mind. It's not a fair fight. Your phone is engineered to steal your focus. Social media is built to keep you addicted, and algorithms are smarter than your willpower. If you don't create intentional barriers between you and the chaos, you'll live your life reacting instead of creating. The problem is most people don't even realize they're distracted. They think they're busy, they think they're working, but what they're actually doing is bouncing from app to app, tab to tab, idea to idea, never diving deep, never sitting with discomfort, never building anything meaningful. Shallow focus creates shallow results. You can't expect to level up in life when your mind is being pulled in 10 directions every 5 minutes. Focus isn't a talent, it's a discipline, and like any discipline, it has to be protected, trained, and prioritized. Distraction is the death of depth. You cannot grow, improve, or master anything if you can't sit still long enough to do the work. And yet, most people are addicted to stimulation. They panic at silence. They avoid stillness. They reach for their phones the moment they feel bored, anxious, or alone. That reflex isn't harmless, it's destructive. It teaches your brain to expect dopamine without effort. It kills your tolerance for patience. And it turns hard work into something that feels unbearable when really it's just unfamiliar. There's also a deeper cost to distraction that people ignore. It's not just about wasted time, it's about wasted potential. Every time you choose distraction over discipline, you send a message to yourself that your goals don't matter, that your attention is for sale, that someone else's agenda is more important than your mission. Over time, this erodes your confidence. It kills your creative edge, it dulls your ambition, and worst of all, it normalizes mediocrity. Because when you're constantly distracted, you can't access flow. You can't get into that deep, locked-in zone where your best work lives. You're stuck in surface mode, and surface mode is where dreams go to die. You need to start guarding your focus like your life depends on it, because in a way, it does. Your future is being shaped by your current attention. If your focus is fractured, your results will be too. That means turning off notifications, setting boundaries, creating rituals, and saying no to the things that don't serve your vision. It means auditing your digital environment with the same intensity you'd use to protect your home. You wouldn't let strangers walk into your house and start yelling nonsense, but you let them do it on your phone all day. That contradiction should wake you up. The truth is, most distractions aren't accidents. They're choices. You're choosing to check your phone. You're choosing to scroll instead of create. You're choosing to consume instead of contribute. And every time you choose distraction, you're choosing to delay your evolution. That might be a hard pill to swallow, but it's also empowering. Because if you're the problem, you're also the solution. You have the power to reclaim your time, retrain your focus, and rewire your habits. Cutting the noise means being ruthless about what gets your attention. It means understanding that not everything requires a response, not every opinion matters, and not every opportunity is for you. It's learning to embrace silence, boredom, and deep work. It's choosing to be present in a world addicted to elsewhere. And it's realizing that clarity comes when the noise fades, when the distractions are removed, and when your mind has room to breathe, think, and execute. Your circle is either fuel or poison, and there is no in between. The people you surround yourself with are either pushing you forward or holding you back. They're either challenging you to grow or keeping you comfortable in your excuses. Too many people underestimate the power of their environment, especially when it comes to relationships. You can be motivated, disciplined, and full of potential, but if you're constantly around negative, lazy, or drama-fueled people, that energy will rub off on you whether you like it or not. You become the average of the voices you listen to, the habits you see, and the values you absorb. Look around and take a hard audit of your circle. Are these people living the way you want to live? Are they building, evolving, striving for more? Or are they stuck in cycles of complaining, gossiping, procrastinating, and blaming the world for their problems? Energy is contagious. If you're always around people who think small, avoid discomfort, and settle for mediocrity, eventually you'll shrink to fit that mold. You'll find yourself lowering your standards to avoid standing out. You'll stop talking about your goals because it makes others uncomfortable. That's how potential dies. Quietly, in rooms where ambition is unwelcome. The truth is, your environment can overpower your intentions. You might have the best mindset, but if you're surrounded by people who don't believe in growth, who don't respect your time, who constantly distract you with nonsense, your progress will stall. You'll start to internalize their limitations as your own. You'll start making decisions based on belonging rather than becoming. And that's a dangerous trap, because fitting in often requires shrinking who you really are. Sometimes growth means outgrowing people. It means letting go of relationships that no longer align with your future, no matter how long they've been part of your past. This isn't about arrogance or thinking you're better than others. It's about alignment. It's about choosing to be around people who elevate you, challenge you, and support the highest version of you. People who speak life into your vision, not people who mock it because they're too afraid to chase their own. People who call you out when you slack, not people who enable your excuses because it makes them feel better about theirs. If your circle doesn't inspire you, it's not a circle, it's a cage. You don't need a crowd, you need quality. A small, focused, disciplined circle of people who are hungry, humble, and driven is infinitely more valuable than a large group of passive spectators. Real friends don't let you play small. Real friends hold you accountable even when it's uncomfortable. They celebrate your wins without jealousy, and they challenge your complacency without apology. That kind of energy is rare, and when you find it, you protect it fiercely. Sometimes upgrading your circle means spending more time alone. Silence is better than fake support. Solitude is better than shallow company. Use that space to get clear on who you are and what you want. When you're aligned with your purpose, the right people will start to show up, not because you chased them, but because your energy called them in. High-frequency people recognize each other. They move different. They talk different. They don't waste time. They're not interested in gossip, drama, or distractions. They're focused on growth, and they make you better simply by being around them. You have to be intentional about your inner circle the same way you're intentional about your goals. They are connected. One affects the other, and if you want to level up your life, you start by leveling up your environment. Protect your space, audit your relationships, and don't be afraid to walk away from anyone who costs you your peace, your focus, or your future. Because in the end, who you surround yourself with is either building you or breaking you. Silence the ego and embrace the grind is a principle that separates long-term winners from short-term talkers. The ego wants recognition, applause, and validation. It wants to be seen working hard more than it wants to actually work hard. It craves shortcuts, attention, and constant reassurance. The grind doesn't care about any of that. The grind is quiet, unglamorous, and relentless. It doesn't show off. It doesn't chase claps. It builds results in silence and lets the outcome do the talking. If you want real growth, you have to stop feeding the ego and start feeding the process. The ego is loud, but it's fragile. It makes you defend your comfort zone instead of expand your limits. It tells you that you're already good enough, that you don't need to push harder, that showing up is enough. It resists feedback. It avoids failure. It hides behind pride and masks fear with arrogance. That voice in your head that says you're above the basics, that you're too advanced for fundamentals, that you deserve more than what you've earned. That's the ego trying to protect its illusion, and that illusion will keep you stagnant. The grind doesn't talk back. It doesn't complain. It doesn't need to prove anything. It just shows up. Day after day, especially when no one's watching. It's about doing the reps when the excitement wears off, pushing through when there's no motivation, and embracing discomfort because you know that's where the growth is. The grind is where character is forged. It's where you separate your wants from your standards. It's not about how you feel. It's about what you've committed to. In a world obsessed with performance, humility is a weapon. The ones who are truly elite are the ones who don't need to broadcast every step. They're too busy building. They don't need to be the loudest in the room because they know their work will speak louder than their words ever could. Humility doesn't mean weakness. It means you're honest enough to admit how much further you have to go. It means you're open to learning, to being coached, to being wrong. It means you don't fake progress. You earn it. There's a kind of quiet confidence that comes from real effort. It's not arrogant. It doesn't need praise. It's grounded in experience. When you know you've done the work, when you've been consistent in the dark while others only show up when the spotlight hits, you walk differently. You move with purpose. You don't get shaken by opinions or setbacks because your self-worth isn't tied to external validation. It's rooted in discipline, and discipline outlasts hype every time. Too many people to grind because their ego can't handle the temporary lack of results. They want instant success, instant recognition, instant mastery. But the grind is slow. It's repetitive. It tests your patience and your mindset. It asks the question over and over, how bad do you really want it? Not when it's exciting, not when people are cheering, but when it's boring, when it's lonely, when nothing seems to be working. That's the test. That's where most people fold. But that's also where the strong build resilience. Silencing the ego doesn't mean you stop believing in yourself. It means you stop letting pride blind you to the truth. You admit you don't know everything. You start from zero again if you have to. You keep your head down and your effort high. You become obsessed with mastery, not attention. Because the real ones, the ones who make it, aren't the ones who scream the loudest. They're the ones who trained the hardest when nobody else cared. They fell in love with the process, not the perception. They understood that the grind is where greatness lives. Consistency beats talent when talent slacks off is a truth most people don't want to hear. We love the idea of natural talent, of being gifted, of having something special that makes success easier or faster. But talent without discipline is wasted potential. It creates entitlement. It makes people think they can get away with doing less because they started with more. And the harsh reality is, if you rely on talent alone, eventually you'll be passed by someone who shows up every day, puts in the reps, and refuses to quit even when they don't feel like it. Consistency is what separates those who dream from those who do. It's not about being the most skilled, the smartest, or the fastest. It's about being the one who doesn't stop. The one who shows up when it's inconvenient, who works when it's uncomfortable, who keeps pushing even when motivation runs out. That kind of relentless consistency compounds. It builds momentum, confidence, and mastery. You don't get good at anything without showing up over and over again, even when the results are invisible and the progress feels slow. People overestimate the power of a big moment and underestimate the power of daily effort. They wait for the right time, the right mindset, the right opportunity. But the truth is, the right time is the moment you decide to start. Consistency doesn't require perfection. It requires commitment. It requires getting back on track even when you slip. It requires being more loyal to your future than your feelings. You don't have to be extraordinary. You just have to be reliable. Over time, reliability beats raw ability. Talent might get you noticed, but consistency gets you respect. The world is full of people with potential who never follow through. They talk big but rarely deliver. They start things but never finish. They show flashes of greatness but lack the discipline to sustain it. Meanwhile, the consistent ones quietly build. They put their heads down, block out the noise, and execute. They aren't chasing quick wins. They're building foundations. They're not worried about looking impressive. They're focused on becoming undeniable. Consistency is boring to people who crave instant gratification. It's not flashy. It's not always fun. It doesn't give you dopamine hits every day, but it gives you something deeper: control, clarity, and compound growth. When you're consistent, you start trusting yourself. You don't rely on hype. You don't fall apart when results take time. You know how to stay the course. That's a power most people will never develop because they're addicted to intensity over longevity. They want to go hard for a week instead of steady for a year. But real progress rewards those who outlast, not those who overhype. Being consistent also means you're resilient. You're not thrown off by failure because you expect obstacles. You've trained your mind to keep going. You don't need perfect conditions to work. You've made consistency a habit, not a reaction. You show up whether it's sunny or stormy, whether you're winning or struggling. That kind of mindset can't be bought. It can't be faked. It's earned through repetition, through discipline, through a daily decision to keep moving forward. Even the most talented people lose their edge if they get comfortable, but the consistent one never lets up. They don't settle. They don't coast. They treat each day like it matters because they know it does. They're not relying on a spark, they're building on a fire, and that fire comes from grit, patience, and an unshakable work ethic. That's why consistency wins. It's not louder, it's not flashier, but it lasts longer, hits harder, and delivers results that talent alone can't guarantee.